Hi, y'all. Before I start this video, this is going to be a very raw and uncut video where I'm going to be discussing the topics of DV and victimization and just women finding themselves in unfortunate circumstances as a result of patriarchy and misogynistic programming that allows for this behavior to run rampant all around the world. So I just want to give a trigger warning. And if you feel like you have to self-preserve and you can't support this video, I 100% understand. There's a few topics I want to talk about today, and I'm just going to give y'all a rundown. You see on the screen that there are chapters, aka timestamps. You can find them in the description box or you can look to the comments. I'm going to start by talking about this request that Charlamagne, Tiffany Red, Misa Hilton, and Cassie have made in different variations, which is to show grace and to make sure that we are focusing on the bigger subject matter by way of their opinion and perception, which is domestic violence, and to stop focusing so much on Diddy. That was asked of Charlamagne and Cassie. Misa is indirectly asking that we show grace. Tiffany Red asked out of her own mouth yesterday on Tisa Tell's platform that we show Young Miami grace. So I'm going to address those things one by one and give my opinions. You do not have to agree with me. If you disagree, this is a safe space. Feel free to just jump in the comments and speak your piece. If you feel like I'm ill-informed or misinformed, feel free to jump in the comments and speak your piece. I'm very receptive to expounding my intellectual scope on these topics that we will be discussing today. If you feel led to, hit the thumbs up. If you are new here and feel led to, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can know when I post like this. I am a social worker. I am a life coach. I am an astrologer and spiritual advisor. So if you would like to book a personal consultation, my booking site is pinned in the comments and it is as well in the description box. My email is also there if you just want to shoot me an email and inquire about anything that's discussed today or any other of my videos, or anything for that matter. And I just hope that you all have a good day. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. I think I'm going to start with that. And let's just go one by one. So Cassie released this statement. She said, "Thank you for all the love and support from my family, friends, strangers, and those I have yet to meet. The outpour of love has created a place for my younger self to settle and feel safe now. But this is only the beginning. Domestic violence is the issue. It broke me down to someone I never thought I would become. With a lot of hard work, I am better today, but I will always be recovering from my past. Thank you to everyone that has taken the time to take this matter seriously. My only ask is that everyone open your heart to believe in victims the first time. It takes a lot of heart to tell the truth out of a situation that you were powerless in. I offer my hand to those that are still living in fear. Reach out to your people. Don't cut them off. No one should carry this weight alone. This healing journey is never ending, but this support means everything to me. Thank you. Love, Cassie." What I found interesting about this statement is she put a big emphasis on conveying that domestic violence is the issue. And this kind of goes in tow with something that Charlamagne said that I'm now going to have y'all listen to.
What are your thoughts on everything going on with Diddy right now?
I think when it comes to that situation, man, I think we shouldn't focus on the individual. We should focus on the issue. Because I think what happens a lot of times is, because of the celebrity, we get lost in talking about the celebrity and not talking about the actual issue. The issue is domestic violence.
Yep, right.
The issue is exactly what I just said about, men not going to do the proper work on themselves, and they're dealing with a lot of pain and a lot of hurt and unhealed trauma, and they're projecting that pain and that hurt on the other people. The issue is patriarchy, right? Because as long as you have a system where men feel superior to women and they're dealing with that pain and they're dealing with that hurt, they're going to project that. We're going to continue to project that onto our women. So I think those are the issues that we should be discussing as opposed to talking about the individual. And we tend to do that a lot as a society. We get lost in the celebrity of things as opposed to, okay, what are we here for?
Because it's clickbait.
Yeah.
It's clickbait.
Like, Diddy brings the engagement. But right now, as I'm talking, there's a woman out there getting beat up by a man, right? And she's not going to get no news coverage. Nobody's going to talk about her.
We should say the name of Cassie, the survivor of the domestic violence.
So I just want to start with these two things before I get to Misa's statement. America has socialized us as individuals to be very egotistical. And when you operate from your ego, you have a hard time with putting yourself in situations that can possibly leave you vulnerable to being incorrect or not getting it right or being considered wrong, and or have a hard time doing self-inventory and self-reflection and then arriving at a conclusion that says, you know what, I could have done better here. I see how I myself have contributed to this situation, and these are my intentions for moving forward, and y'all will just have to wait to see if my change behavior goes in tow with the verbal apology I'm giving or anything of that sort, right? And I say that because let's go back to what Kim Porter's alleged friend says. I think her name is Kola Booth or whatever, and she's the mistress of Osama bin Laden, and she's a known writer and whatnot. She alleges that Cassie pretty much enabled and even was humored and amused at the circumstances that she found herself in when she was observing them, by way of Kim Porter being on the receiving end of what Diddy was doing. She alleged that there were situations where Cassie would come over to the residence where Puff and Kim were staying, and there would be times where he would tell Kim to get out the bed and put her in the bed, and Cassie thought that she had one up because Kim Porter was a black woman and Cassie is mixed. And I will say this, I'm sure there is some truth to that. I am sure there is some truth to that, because when I went and did some research, I found this picture of Kim Porter and Cassie on the red carpet together. And I thought that this was very interesting. I thought this was very interesting. Why would they be on the red carpet together? If Cassie pretty much has, per her words, been in a relationship with Diddy very early on, once he was able to get her away from Ryan Leslie, I don't understand, even at the age of 19, 20, 21, because you're still young, you still may not have all your emotional intelligence, but you know the concept of what's right and what's wrong. And this is not me attempting to victim blame. I've said it time and time again, way before the lawsuit even came out, when Diddy and Young Miami started running around and everybody was promoting and parading and pedestalizing that relationship dynamic. Diddy is a known abuser. Why are we sitting here and enabling this relationship dynamic? Young Miami at the time is a young woman. Diddy is a well-known abuser, and everybody is just cheering her on as she skips into the lion's den. And I never understood it, and I still have those videos up on my channel. You had the hypergamous blogger Chloe _. When Cassie left Diddy, she did a video. Why is everybody because these videos are on private now, because once again, like I said, people like to pivot. People don't like to talk about how they enabled and helped in creating an atmosphere for harmful things that have now come to a head and boiled over. People just like to pivot and just go on the socially acceptable side. Oh, it's time to hate Diddy. Oh, yeah, it's so wrong. But I remember Chloe underscore, because I'm saying names today. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about this shit. And I don't mean the topics at hand. I'm just talking about all the pop. I just do not care. God says, speak your truth. When Lori Harvey was caught out with Diddy, you did a video, Lori Harvey smarter than you think. When Carisha was running around with Diddy, you was posting pictures of them at the Met Gala. Because for a lot of you, it's about what it looks like. It's not about what it actually is and what could be going on. A lot of you will sell your fucking soul just for the look. This is why the saying goes, a woman will get up, push her plate and back her chair out and stand up from the table when she is good, well, and full. That's not victim blaming. That is just a reality. We're not going to act like, because humans, we are multifaceted individuals. So we are not going to act like there is not a universe where you can be someone and be so enamored by what you see this person to be in your mind that despite how you see them treating other people and despite the type of situations you see them having with other people, you think, okay, well, it's going to be different with me. And then when you find out it's not different with you, in my honest opinion, if you can't be humbled enough to at minimum be like, you know what? That person did try to help me. That person did try to warn me and I just didn't want to see it. There was this bodyguard of Diddy's that did an interview that said, I did try to help Cassie. I would try to help her get away. But unfortunately, and this is where the battered women syndrome energy comes in, she was so brainwashed and broken down mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, she would run back to Diddy and tell on me. And then next thing you know, I'm getting calls from Diddy's offices and whatnot with threats and shit, allegedly, because I wasn't there. So there's a stark difference between being in a domestic violence situation where you have no way out, you have no support, you have nobody trying to help you, versus you have all of these people helping you, but you are just not ready to leave. That's where you want to be. I know how to walk and chew gum. That doesn't excuse, absolve, or either explain Diddy's behavior. It just is what it is. When Diddy was running around with Jennifer Lopez and they was asking Kim Porter, well, what do you think of it? Kim Porter was like, oh, that's just a plaything. He'll be right back over here. So yes, these women were victims, but in addition to that, they were enablers and willing participants because there was an incentivization. And that's just what it is. They were being incentivized. Cassie wanted a music career and whatever the case may be. And maybe in her head, she thought maybe this year it will happen. He did say he would do this for me or do that for me. And then after a while, she just realized, bitch, a whole decade done went by and nothing has happened for me. I'm not saying, I read through that lawsuit and I've already talked about it when it came out in October. She detailed the several times she tried to get away from that man. In addition to that, it's okay for us to also have a conversation and talk about how when he was beating on Kim and kicking her out of bedroom, supposedly your ass was standing around snickering and laughing. And when people were trying to help you, you weren't in a space where you could help yourself. So these people had to back up and just let you have it. I completely understand that. I had a cousin. I don't really deal with my mother's side anymore. And I don't know if I ever told this story, but I had a cousin, and I don't know if she's still in this relationship, but she has 2 kids with this man who has abused her in many different ways. I will never forget he beat her up on Mother's Day. And I had seen her shortly after, and her face was fucked up. Beat the mother of his kids on Mother's Day in front of his mother, because his mother is also very intimidated by him. And they had an apartment, and he's just a motherfucker. This motherfucker would cook drugs in the apartment while my little cousins are toddlers and damn near infants, and not care, methamphetamines to be exact. And I will never forget the matriarchs in my family, my aunts, one including her mother, along with her sister, went over there. They had a court order to have him removed. And because he's such a narcissistic, abusive piece of shit, he was so bothered that he took everything out the house, from the silverware to the picture frames off the wall. And that spoke to how he really felt, because it's one thing to leave her in destitute, but why would you do that to your sons? Because he don't care. Oh, I can't get my egotistic, narcissistic supply. Now everything associated with you can burn in hell. You know how these evil motherfuckers be. We got together, we planned a housewarming, and we threw it for her. We replaced everything, which I think she did. Moved his ass right the fuck back in. Moved him right the fuck back in. Same thing with my mother. My mother's last address on file is a domestic violence shelter in Brooklyn, New York. She barely spent time at that apartment because her ass was in Queens laying up with the man who put her in a position to even be eligible for that apartment to begin with. My brother spent most of the time at that apartment. And that was the apartment that she attempted to jump out the 4th floor window after it finally materialized in her head that she had found herself in another situation with a man that promised her the world and then some, but all he did was shatter her world. I understand, I empathize, and have emotional, mental, and spiritual proximity to domestic violence and to victims. I have seen it with my own eyes and have even been a victim of it a few times in isolated situations. And I am humbled and grateful that the way that I am in the relationship I have with myself, and may not always protect me from being on the receiving end in the past, because I have had hands put on me, but it protects me from me to be like, oh, that's enough, one and done. And I get the fuck out of Dodge, or I get that motherfucker away from me. We need to have honest conversations about developmental mindsets within people that end up being victims of predators like Sean Diddy Combs. Cassie was able to be a victim of Diddy because something within her convinced herself at one point or another, in my opinion, that it was more important for her to stand on red carpets, wear designer clothes, and have a shot at a music career and a personal career than to get the fuck away from that demon and that devil. Discernment is important, and it takes time, and it's usually situations that allow for your discernment to come in. Community, because they allege that Cassie's family encouraged that she have a relationship with Diddy because of the benefits that she would possibly get. It takes time when you see grown, able-bodied adults find themselves in these situations. They fuck you and break you down mentally, emotionally, and spiritually way before they put their hands on you. Way before they put their hands on you. Now, when it comes to Miss Tiffany Red on the Tisa Tells platform, I'm gonna just say this. I personally think the reason why Tiffany Red is asking that we show Young Miami grace because she probably sees some similarities between Young Miami and Cassie, which she kind of does. Okay. Cassie naturally, first of all, when Cassie got with Diddy, this was in a period where social media was not as big and potent as it is today. That's number one. That's number one. And I think that's a very important fact because Cassie is naturally a shy, introverted, subdued personality. She has always been that way. Even when she opens up her mouth to speak, she has a very timid energy about her. Carisha, on the other hand, she's a loud ghetto bitch. That's just what it is. She's a ghetto bitch from Miami. And she came up off of that social media hype. So I see the similarities to a certain degree in being impressionable, but I also see the stark differences in how they can be perceived by the public differently. Whereas Cassie is perceived more as a victim and Carisha is perceived more as a willing participant. But that's because Carisha aided in creating a lane within hip hop culture that promoted prostitution and sex work. So you have a lot of people that's like, you always have people that just assume that when you're messing with a man who's wealthy and has power and resources, he's automatically going to be a piece of shit, which goes in tow with possibly being abusive. That's number one. You have people that assume that regardless. So when you have women such as Young Miami that present themselves in a way where the only thing that matters to you is the money in the material world, people are going to naturally think twice before showing grace because they're thinking, well, this is what she promotes. This is what she supports. She says she likes being pissed on. She's holding up gold poppy signs. She's on the carpet at the Met Gala. She's arguing with his other side chicks and saying, if I wanted to have you on my knees eating my pussy, Diddy would have had you on the knees. So why are we showing grace? I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with it, but why sit up there and be so confused? And then Tiffany said, why y'all constantly jumping on her? I feel for her. Talk about Diddy because she was perpetuating and promoting this lifestyle as the gospel, but she wasn't telling us that he has her transporting drugs, they're snorting coke, they're allegedly sexually intimidating people in studios, and your cousin is supposedly straddling or trying to give fellatio and all this stuff. She's not telling us that these are the dark, twisted, demonic things that are going on behind the scenes. She's not telling us that. So this is why people are side-eyeing, because it's like, you want us to have compassion, you want us to have grace, but she's not a victim. She's a willing participant. But I think the reason why Tiffany is saying that is because maybe she sees some similarities when it comes to Cassie and Carisha. Maybe Cassie was just a bit more covert and sneaky. We have to have these conversations because if not, we're just feeding into the perfect victim narrative. You could be a victim and a villain simultaneously. Multiple truths coexist. We all, myself included, have a shadow side and a high vibrational side. And both sides can be present in a situation where people can show you grace and compassion and say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And in addition, and say, but can you take some accountability for being a willing participant, for being an enabler? Going back to Charlamagne the God, let me speak to a personal experience that I had at the Breakfast Club. Since we want to talk about the problem is these men walk around with unhealed trauma and then they're projecting it. Let's talk about unhealed trauma and projection. I interned with the Breakfast Club from September 2018 to, what was that, May of 2019. When I was interning there was 4 women. One name was Samantha. She was an intern there as well with me. She may be a production assistant there. I don't know. There was another girl. This is a woman that's been there for a minute. Taylor. I think she used to go by Fun Size T on Instagram, and she's Charlamange's right hand man. There was Michaela. She was the assistant to the program director, Thea Mitchell. She's the one who does HR and hired me. And then there was a girl, Nyla Simone, who y'all may know. She's a DJ. Nyla Simone was kind enough to allow me to shadow her. When you intern for the Breakfast Club, I don't know what it is now. That show starts at 6 a.m. So I think you're asked to be there at 5:30. I can't remember. This is before the pandemic, before I lost 2 parents and got hospitalized with COVID. So my memory with, those details are a little shaky. But the point is, if you wanted to shadow someone such as Nyla, who I think Nyla had from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. at times, like she would be able to do those sets or whatever the case may be, you have to come in at that time because that's what it is. You're shadowing them. And I came in and I got there at like maybe 3:30 a.m., 4 a.m. And she's just always been really cool. I remember she watched some of my YouTube videos and she came up to me and said, keep doing what you're doing. I love how the same way you act here, that's how you act on YouTube. This is when I had my Live with Leah show situation going on. Out of nowhere with her, as well as with Samantha, because me and Samantha were really close to the point where she had at the time like an uncle in Ghana, or she had some family out there. And I was talking about how I had studied abroad in Cape Town, and we were talking about planning a trip to go out there and whatnot. I'll never forget, out of nowhere, the energy just changed when I would try to link up with Nyla to be shadowed by her or make any other connections within. I wouldn't be able to get it. And then even with Samantha, she started creating distance. Okay. And come to find out, I was told, well, Charlamagne don't like you. And he's Uncle Charla, those are his nieces, so you can already figure out the rest. And for a while, that really did do something to my sense of self, my self-esteem, and my perception. There would be times that I would just be sitting in the studio, minding my business, my right hand to God on my mother and father's grave, Charlamagne, we're all sitting like in the sitting area. Oh, people think they're all that on YouTube and whatnot, and this, that, and the third. And oh, Aaliyah, do you think that you could do this and that? Swear to God. Swear to God. And I would just be sitting there like, and I would run to my spiritual advisor because at this time, I'm not as confident, I'm not as empowered, and be like, did I do something wrong to Charlamagne? Can you like pull some cards on this? Like, why is he treating me like that? Because I have rejection sensitivity. I had insecure, anxious attachment styles from being neglected on an emotional level and having a lack of energy from love and heart-centeredness poured into me by my parents. I wasn't able to make those connections back then in 2018, but I can make them now with all of the work that I've done. I remember I came into work and I go in the studio and I'm asking Angela Yee and her makeup artist and the producer, hey, what y'all want for breakfast? Oh, girl, swear to God, this is 5:30 a.m. in the morning. The sun ain't even out yet. Yesterday when you wasn't here, Charlamagne pulled your YouTube channel up and he was trying to make it seem like you be going hard for Tasha K, but then Dan pulled up a video where you was going off on Tasha K and he looked stupid. This man did not like me. And any chance that you got, Charlamagne, if you come across this video to try to pull people in and convince people not to like me, 48 laws of power, narcissistic shit, you would do that. And those young ladies fell in line. And where I finally cut it and just shut it down and got tired of it was internship is over, pandemic done happened, whatever the case may be. This is like maybe 2021 now. Samantha had got cancer. And I reached out to her and sent her a text because it really moved me. And we started in contact again. But in the midst of me and her being in contact again, she got back in contact with Charlamagne and them, and they had showed up at her house and surprised her because she had kind of dipped off to handle her health, rightfully so. All of a sudden, communication with her just stopped. And I remember talking to my homegirl about that, and she said, "You know what, Aaliyah? That's perfectly okay. Next time her ass comes back around, just ignore her and keep it moving." And that's what the fuck I did. And then she finally got the picture because she was responding to my stories, and then she just unfollowed me, and I just kept it moving. I say that shit to say. And Joe Budden spoke to this on his podcast yesterday. He said these words verbatim. You got a lot of niggas out here that's promoting black excellence, and there ain't nothing fucking excellent about these motherfuckers. Nothing fucking excellent. Now, I am not saying that Charlamagne has not evolved as a person. I am not saying that my experience with him is the sum total of who he is. But I sat there. And that's why when that situation came up with Angela Yee and she was sitting on Terman Hall and the women got in the comments and said, "Oh, that's funny. It's a cult mentality. It's a cult mentality." Because Angela Yee was on the brink of tears some days that I was interning there. I don't give a fuck. We're going to talk about it today. Says we're going to talk about it. Let's really talk about it. There were days she was on the brink of fucking tears there. One time she sat in a meeting and Charlamagne tried to provoke her so much. He goes, "I mean, Angela ain't got nothing in common with me and Envy. We're married with kids and she's single and alone." He was mad that Angela Yee didn't come out and make a statement of support when those Jessica Reed allegations started rolling. And the female program director, Thea Mitchell, sat in Angela Yee's face and tried to scold her and tell her, "Well, I believe Charlamagne." I have a problem with people that you claim to be one way and you write in books and you talking about healing and stuff, but things that still bother me, I'm going to talk about it today. When I was getting into my spirituality and I had my tarot cards, and you would make comments when people would be interested and be like, "Oh, Leah, let me see that. I don't know why y'all sitting over there with Aaliyah. Aaliyah's going to put something on you." Further leaning into the stigmatization of Black spirituality and occult knowledge when you come from South Carolina, where that shit is very prominent, and it's probably the shit that's been protecting you. But then we want to write books, get honest or die lying, and talk about mental health and mental wealth, but you didn't care about my mental health. At that time, for those of you that know, that's been following me, I was having issues. I was not able to come to work because I was trying to file a police report because I was afraid to leave my apartment in East New York, Brooklyn, because my roommate was going into my room and doing all types of shit and intimidating me. And then on top of that, when I come to work, I got to deal with the same bullshit. And that's why I just started staying to myself. And God forbid you a Black woman who doesn't run with the crowd and you just rather sit with yourself. Now you think you better than, but then when I'm trying to fit in, you want me to eat 10 fucking miles of crow. I'm not doing it. I bow before God, the real God, not false idols. That's why I probably won't talk about the Diddy Cassie stuff anymore because people are too overly attached to the socialization of what is perceived, what it takes to evolve and to be successful in the material world. And I understand that there are so many moving layers and moving factors when it comes to being brave and when it comes to being courageous, but it is not right and it is not fair. And that's why I wrote that post, and I'm going to read it and then I'll just end this video. I wrote this post on my wall this morning about you cannot have it all at once. You cannot be someone that wants to be exalted and you want people to consume and praise you and worship you. But then when people continue to hold you to these same standards, when it's time to have difficult conversations, now all of a sudden we're only human, we're only learning. So when it's convenient, praise me as a god or a goddess or a deity, worship me, idolize me, pedestalize me. Yeah, spend $1,300-$1,400 on boots. And if anybody says something, yeah, off with their head. But in Strength of a Woman conferences and Pumas and sunglasses and sitting on stage. But then when we say, well, where are these women? They're human. They're scared. So they're not scared to get money, but they're scared to have conversations about people with money that's abusing their power. I'm no longer, no, you will not gaslight me. Absolutely not. This will be the last time I speak on this situation until it's time for a jury selection in the People versus Sean Combe Carter. With Carter, okay, Spirit is speaking. I guess it'll be Jay-Z's dumbass too. So this is what I said. Tiffany Red pushed back on Tisa Tells yesterday and said, we, the public, should give Young Miami more grace because she can very much so be a victim too. And to stop focusing on her and keep the focus on Diddy. Here are my thoughts. So I said, when it comes to the portion of the conversation about Young Miami, I think what Tiffany Red fails to factor in is how intentional Young Miami was about perpetuating a lifestyle that we are now seeing has disastrous consequences. She literally, along with JT, introduced a whole genre of prostitution rap, glorifying sex work and then kicking it up a notch when she got with Diddy. She can very much so be a victim, but that doesn't mean she can't or shouldn't be called to be a bit more accountable in this situation, especially if she wants to keep garnering public support when it comes to the endeavors of her brand. You can't have it all at once. You can't expect or feel entitled to public support, but dictate how it comes across. This is the same thing for Lauren London and Mary J. Blige. They are out here sitting on panels and hosting conferences with majority female audience members and ticket holders, but are mute on this abusive man. And yes, to Tiffany's point, it is scary. He is a billionaire. He is well connected. It is a well-oiled machine of demonic acts. Again, you can't have it all at once. When Iyanla Van Zandt and Lisa Nichols stepped onto the scene of empowering women in life coaching and etc., they had to bear it all and tell their quote-unquote shame stories. When you are truly anointed to serve and empower, that comes with inner strength. If you are too connected and invested in the material world, you will convince yourself you are not as powerful as you are. I am tired of these folks who live these highly privileged lives, picking and choosing when to hold them on a pedestal and when not to. Pedestalize me and worship me when it's time to spend a bag on my products and talents. But remember, I'm human when accountability and tough dialogues come knocking. I hear Tiffany. I appreciate the context, compassion, and empathy. Additionally, you can't have it all at once. You can't serve two masters. I get it. It's a process, but folks stood next to that man and praised him over and over and over again. That cannot be ignored. And we can talk about all things at once. So that's what I said. Because Lauren London sitting in an interview with Angie Martinez, Puff, my brother, yeah, he's the one who called me and told me, show the world what it means to hold a man down when he's gone. Your best friend's abuser is the one who motivated you to go to the love of your life's funeral. this is my thing. It's clearly an echo chamber of abuse. It's clearly an echo chamber of grooming. And maybe if y'all did not actively participate in acting like it's something different, maybe it would be different. You cannot do the bidding of the devil and then try to run all the way to the light and get mad when you get opposition, especially if you're not willing to address the darkness that you bring in with you. Like I said, this will probably be the last time I talk about it. Call me when jury selection starts. Thank you so much for those of you that will comment, that may share this video. And I truly do send love and energetic support to anyone that is triggered or deeply impacted by this. Y'all have a good day.